Hello, Namdi. What's up?
Pythonista, okay, Namdi.
Guys, you're all welcome, man. Namdi,
Welcome,
welcome.
guys. Same
Good
here.
evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear you loud and clear.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Namdi.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening, Namdi.
Yeah, I did
You
hear
can
me.
hear us now, bro.
Yes, I can.
How far now?
I'm good. Sorry for joining late. I was hoping and waiting for Prince to drop the link, not knowing that I can still join with the same link.
Nah, no alarm. No alarm.
Hello. Okay, guys. The link. It is always the same. I've never changed the link. The link we started with is still the same link we're using. So whenever you're in doubt, just refer to the earliest link we have shared. I think I've shared the link about 7 times. I just felt it was not necessary to share again because I always share it every time. But any link you have for this meeting, it will work because I have never changed the link. It's always the same link we have been using.
All right, that is noted, Prince. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay. Okay, Namdi, whenever you think you're cool, we can start because this is a few minutes after 7. So, and I have started recording. So at any point you can start, please, anytime you're comfortable. If you want to wait a minute or two, fine. If you want to start right away, that's also fine. Guys, you're all welcome, please. Namdi is going to be taking us the basics of the credit. I wanted someone who has already done it. Among us, if there is any other person that has also completed the credit or at least have some insights, we can interact as we progress. So it's just basically he who has gone and seen it would basically give us a guide on what to expect, common errors to avoid, if there are issues he had that we can surmount that he knows. Yes, Matthew too has done it, but I'm hoping that he will join. I shared the link, so if he sees and join, somebody just sent a message that he thinks Matthew has done. I also observed that. So guys, please, that's just what this is about. It's about getting a guide on what the credit is about, the possible challenges, ways you can solve those challenges. Because I believe that before now, Nnamdi must have had certain issues, and that is why we are a pod. The things he has discovered, he can give us a guide so that we don't have to go through the same challenges or the same pressures. So I think that is just what this is about. So Nnamdi, please, once you're comfortable or you're okay, you can start sharing. Thank you guys for being a part of this meeting. Yeah, I'll mute myself now.
All right, thank you, guys, and welcome once more to this evening session. Okay, so just like what Prince has said, I will be talking you through some of the challenges and also see how to solve particular tasks or exercise, one or two exercises with you guys that will help and should give you outline on how to go about it. Since of course we know that we cannot solve the credit right here, since it's against the rule, the explores rule. I have taken my time to get to about 2 exercises that we are going to walk through together this evening. Those exercises are not from Explore. They are from the course I did online some time ago. I planned, putting up an exercise that would be suits just like the one from Explore. But because of my very, very busy schedule and very tight schedule, I thank God for the course I took on Udemy, and I went back to checked the exercises, I saw that okay, these exercises will also work. So the exercises will be treating that I want to use as a guide to help you understand how to go about the credit are all from Udemy. Because I did it from Udemy, just want to let you know that before we begin. But if there is anyone of us that have gone through the credit and would like to ask specific questions or based on one or two of these questions or questions that in credit, you are welcome to ask those questions. And for those of us, I know I'm not the only one that have done the credit. Another person that have done the credit, we can also contribute to it. You're free to answer as many questions as you can. Okay, the chat area is there for us to use. When I start sharing my screen, I don't think I'll be able to see the chats that come in. So, Prince, permit me to ask that you notify me if there are questions in the chat box, and if you feel like unmuting yourself to ask a question, please, you're welcome to do that.
It's alright, Namdi. No problems at all. I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll begin sharing my screen. I'll share my screen right away. So please let me know if you can see my screen.
Namdi, we can see your screen right now. Please.
Yeah, we can see it.
Thank you very much. So here is one of the exercises I would like us to look at. Okay, as you can see, based on what we were taught today about plagiarism, and for some of us that are also doing our masters online, we know that they seriously hammer on this case of plagiarism. You cannot just take someone's house work and play around with it. So I've written a very broad disclaimer here. This exercise was created by Josh Potila, and not by me. And that is for his Udemy course, which is Python for data science and machine learning bootcamp. Like I said, I did this course a few years ago, but lucky for me, I still have some of these materials. Okay, so this particular task we are about going through, like I said earlier, to shed some light on how to go about solving your 3D, because there are some of the tasks that will be done here that will be useful when you begin attempting your 3D. Okay, so here is an exercise on e-commerce purchases. Let me just quickly go through this introduction. In this exercise, you need some fake data about something. So just go ahead and find the directions and try your best to answer the questions and complete the tasks. Feel free to reference the solutions. We provided the solutions then. Most of the tasks can be solved in different ways, okay? And that is what I had in mind to say. Like any task I'm solving now, or whatever I'm going to do now, is not the only way to do it. There are several ways to solve a particular problem. Okay, for the most part, the questions get progressively hard. Okay, please excuse. I hope you can see my screen clearly. I'm trying to increase it.
We can still see your screen.
Anything that doesn't make good real world sense in DataFrame, all the data is fake and made. Alright, I haven't gone through those. So the first thing I'll be doing here is to import this library called Pandas. Of course, we've worked with Pandas again and again before now, so I believe Pandas is not new to us. And just like in the previous session that Okon handled, he mentioned Pandas. And we're going to import Pandas as this alias PD, which is the regular thing to do when working with libraries. We always want to import those libraries with a very short alias that will help us reference on the library when working with it. So that is the first task we're meant to do in this exercise, and I've done that. Okay, so the next thing I'm supposed to do is to get the data. Now from this, let's get familiar with this workbook, and this is how it looks, something close to the predicts. The predicts also has the output, expected output. Now I've imported the library Pandas, so I'm going to call in the data, and once I do that, it's expected that the data should look like this. So this is an expected output for my data. And when you go to the next tab, you see the expected output. When I carry out these tasks, I'm expected to see this result, and it goes on and on and on like that. So let's walk through this exercise and see how to go about achieving all. The first thing I'm going to do is to import my data. Now, one thing you should note, which was mentioned in today's session, I remember, was Hazin Nomfondo, when she handled this today's session, she mentioned that if you are working with any data, ensure the data is in the same folder where your Python file is also stored. If the data is in a different folder, then you have error. Okay, so please take note. But for the credit, I think the data we worked on is stored somewhere online. Yes, because there was a link added there, so the data is stored somewhere online. So you have to be connected online to work with it. But if you want to work with it offline, like I did sometime when working with the credits, what I did was to copy the link. I copied the address link in the notes in the Jupyter notebook and did paste it on one of my tabs. Then that took me to where the data was. I copied that data from where it was saved online and store it in the folder where I saved the credits Jupyter notebook. So with that, I was able to work offline, even without connecting my computer to the internet. So having said that, let me import this data. The instruction is to read in the data, which is called, the data is stored as e-commerce purchases, and it's a CSV file. Okay, and we should call it into a data frame and label it as e-com. Okay, going by that instruction, I'm going to try to give the variable name e-com, and to call it into read in the data, I use the following command: pd.read underscore. Okay, then before I type in that, I'll just press my tab key. With my tab key, you will see different versions of files or different type of files you can read into your notebook using this pandas using this library called pandas pd. We can import clipboard. That is, if you copy it to clipboard, you can import it using read.clipboard. You can import CSV files, all right, using read underscore CSV. You can import Excel file as read underscore Excel, read underscore feather underscore JSON, HTML, and so on and so forth. So you can use this guy, read underscore HTML, to actually scrape some information from websites. But interest is to use this one, read underscore CSV, because the file we're about working with right now is a CSV file. Okay, so when you type your read pd.read underscore CSV, open the bracket. Now let me say this before I continue. Before I got used to Python, I always have issue with this. I always forget, most times I'll forget, okay, what do I put after pd dot? What should follow? Is it read? Is it load? Is it so? One way to get this problem, or one way to help yourself out, is to learn how to use the tab key on your keyboard. Whenever you press PD, or whenever you press any data structure or any library or any function, you put your dots, press tab. Tab will give you a list of things you can do with that particular data structure or library. I did mention this in one of the previous sessions we had, so I'm saying it again just to help you remember and to also guide you when working on your predicts. That will give you, to help you a lot to know what to do with any data. So you can see that you read underscore, and there are different other functions and things you can do with this pandas library. Okay, so let's go ahead and import and read in this data. So the data is saved as e-commerce. All I do is copy this guy, e-commerce purchases, and place it inside this curve bracket within a quote, either single quote or double quote, and that is all I need to do. I'm going to press Shift Enter on my keyboard. That is one shortcut to run your cell. Instead of clicking on this run button, which will always also work, use Shift Enter or Control Enter. So that is it. We have imported our data successfully. Okay, but note that there are sometimes you will save your data as .csv. this particular data called e-commerce purchases is a CSV file, but just it was saved as a text file, but it's a CSV file. But if you save it as .csv, you must also enter .csv. Don't do that, you have error when you try to run it. So like this case, you see I'm having error because the data is not saved as .csv. It's only saved as e-commerce purchases, which is a text file, but a CSV file. You know, when we say CSV means comma separated value. So the values are separated by comma. The text file that contains values separated by comma. But if you have saved the file itself as a CSV file, you must add this extension .csv to the title of the file or to the name of the file, then run it. But in this case, I don't need to add the extension because it's a text file that contains CSV, or objects. Let me just put it that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and visualize the data frame. Let's look at the table and see how it will come out. Do you have any question?
Yes, Namdi, please. I have a question.
Please ask.
Okay, I observed that while you were calling up the data, this ecom file, that is a CSV file, you did not make reference to any source. Is it that the file will already be downloaded and it will be on your local machine, or you're referencing a source that is online? If that is the case, why is there no extension that calls up the source, please?
Okay, thank you for that question, Okon. So, like I said again, this file, e-commerce, is saved in the folder, the same folder where I opened this Jupyter notebook.
Okay.
The same folder where I opened this Jupyter notebook, the file is there, saved there. Okay, let me see if I can add that same tab to this window so that I can explain what you understand what I'm trying to say here. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
Let me add that tab to that one. Okay, so all right, so can you guys see the tab now? Here's the tab.
Yes, Namdi, we can see it. Yeah.
All right, here's the tab. This is the data. This is the data. E-commerce purchases. When I click on it to open, you see it's a text file containing some text or some data separated with comma. Can you see? Comma. Each of these, they are all separated with comma. So that is why it's called a comma separated value, or comma separated values. Did you see that? So, but the title or the name of this file is not saved as .csv. The extension .csv is not added to it. However, it contains CSV files or data. All right, so because it's here in the same folder, the folder is called Pandas Exercises. It's in the same folder where I'm working, where I created this particular e-commerce purchases, what do you call it now? Jupyter notebook. That is why it will run without any issue. If this file is not here, it's not saved here, if I should remove it from this particular folder and take it to another folder, it will not work. So just because it's in the same folder where this notebook is created, it will work without any problems. Python or Jupyter notebook will be able to go there, search from the folder, that particular folder, and bring it out. So if you have two folders, let's say what created a folder called data analysis, for instance, and inside data analysis folder you created another folder called e-commerce purchase exercises, which is a folder, right? Now, and if you save this data in the folder called data analysis, and you opened or you created your Jupyter notebook in the folder called e-commerce purchases exercises, and you try to call the data, the e-commerce purchases data into your Jupyter notebook, which is not in that folder, you will still have issue. There will still be an error, even though that folder containing the Jupyter notebook is in the bigger folder containing data analysis, which is a bigger folder which is data analysis. It will still have error, but you see a return error message for you. So the only way to prevent that is make sure your data is in the same folder where the Python Jupyter notebook is created. I don't know if I've answered the question.
Yes, Namdi, you have perfectly. But please, just to follow up very quickly, does it, if a folder is not stored on the same file for any reason, maybe you're trying to call up a document that is in a repository somewhere in the cloud, is it still possible to do that?
Yeah. Of course, yes, it's possible. In that case, you will use. Okay, let me do that quickly. Let me see if I can do that quickly. Oh, I don't think I can quickly access data from the web. What you do in that case, you are going to use this other. Let me call this ecom1 equal to pd dot read underscore html to call using the URL.
Okay.
https / let's say www. mydata.com.
Okay.
Let's say this particular website exists somewhere that contains data or some kind of HTML file. You can use this to call that. Okay, give me a minute. Let me just open a random web page that contains table. Give me, let's say, cars. Let's open. See. Let me just see if I have. Okay. All right. What is this website again? Wikipedia. Let me just open Wiki. Let's see this. All right. So from this page, there are tables here. Now I want to get out some of these tables on this page. I want to scrape out some of the tables on this page. All I will do is copy this link. Go to my notebook and paste it inside here.
Okay.
That has this, but mind you, I'm using pd.read.html this time around and not CSV.
Yeah.
Because I want to read some HTML file. So let me just do that in a new cell and run. So you can see it's loading. Now I have that page, the tables from that page on my Jupyter notebook. Let's read it. Let's see how it looks like. Ecom. Let me call ecom underscore 1. Can you see it right now?
Okay.
So I've been able to scrape those information from that website. These are tables, but it's not looking neat, right? These are tables from that particular website. So if I say this.info, let's see. Okay, I think that HTML file don't have info. Let me see other elements, or what they call it now, that comes with it. Okay, I think this is like a list. Let's call the first element in that list. Okay, this is it. So what we were seeing earlier, this is a list. List of tables from that, extracted from that website that I opened right now. Now if I want to see the first element, the first table in this list of tables, all I'm going to do is to use my square bracket and put the index 0, which represents the first element in that particular list, and it gives me a table containing car and car.1. Cars and trucks driving and blah blah blah. So you can do your whatever work you want to do with it. Do you understand? So to scrape data from websites, you use HTML, and mostly HTML will scrape the table elements, specifically table elements. But if you want to scrape other kinds of data like text and the rest, you have to use Beautiful Soup or another scraping library, to scrape those kind of things from other websites. Are there questions before we continue.
Oh, Namdi, thanks a lot. That's really
Namdi,
clear. Thanks.
can I
Yes, please go
I
ahead.
just add a little bit? Okay, so in addition to all the other things Namdi has explained, you could also use a path address when, for example, when you're trying to load data from a different file. Now, at the top of your extensions, generally, at the top of your file page, you can always click on the file and I think it's a right click, and you can copy the file path. When you copy the file path, you might need to change the forward slashes to backward slash or backward slash, depending on your machine you're using, whether you're using a Mac or using a Windows. One of them uses a backward, one uses a forward. So you can always use that to actually read addresses or rather files from another folder or in another place. So actually into your Pandas also.
Thank you,
Hello?
Dari. Thank you so much. That is about that. So this is about reading data. There are several ways you can get in your data into Python, and it's a skill on its own. It's called web scraping. You should know if you want to get data from website or this thing. So it's a skill. So you can, if you notice, when I was trying to open a page, I was trying to get Wikipedia page, because one thing I've discovered is that Wikipedia page will always give you access to scrape. Most Wikipedia pages, you can go there and scrape data, but not all pages, not all websites will allow you to scrape data. Okay, some of them you have to use their APIs and some other security bypass to be able to scrape data from the website. But for Wikipedia pages, you can do that without stress. So with just your pandas and read HTML file, you can scrape data from most Wikipedia pages. Okay, so I believe we can continue. Can we?
Yes, we can continue. And thanks, Dari. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so let me do away with this cell. I don't need it. How do you delete a cell? If you don't want to delete using the delete command under edit, you can just press double D key on your keyboard. So I'm deleting cell in line 10. DD will delete that cell for me. I want to delete cell line 5. DD, just press D twice on your keyboard. DD will delete that cell for me. So let's continue from cell 4. I'm running that again. I've clicked on, actually, clicked on run to run this cell again. Then next, let's see the head of the data, and it's expected to look like this, right? Okay, I don't want to overwrite this output. So what I'm going to do is to create a new cell under this particular cell, because if I call on ecom.head, which is the normal code to write to see the head of the table, it will give me an output, and that will overwrite. If I do that in this particular cell, it will overwrite this result. I don't want to overwrite this result, so I'm going to create a new cell by clicking on this plus sign above, or you press B, which is letter B on your keyboard, which is the shortcut to create a new cell. So you click on a cell above. If you want to create a cell below, click on one cell and press B, letter B on your keyboard. So I click on this particular cell containing check the head of the data frame. Then I press B on my keyboard to create a new cell. Okay, let's continue. So I'm going to view the head of this data, ecom.head, and let's see the head. So this is the head, this is the output. As you can see, it's looking exactly as the expected output. So from this, you can just view the head and try to understand your data. We have address, we have a column called address, we have LOT, we have AM or PM, browser info, company, credit card, CC, expiry date, blah 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 blah. And but with this, this will not allow us see all the head, all the column titles at a goal, except to click on this scroll bar and scroll to the end to see that. So if you want more information about this table or the data on this table, the column titles and all whatnot, the other command you can use to check that is called the info. The other, not command, the other method you can use to check that is called the info. So, and that is instruction in next cell. It says how many rows and columns are there. So with info method, you can tell how many rows and columns are in your data. Okay, so let's do that. And here's the expected output. This is what we're expected to see. I don't want to overwrite this particular output. If I should enter my code right in this cell, it should overwrite this, but I don't want to overwrite that. So I'll click on this cell above, press B, and type ecom.info, okay, to get the information. So here is the info. It means these are the columns. I have column 0 to 13, meaning I have 14 columns. Okay, and here we have how many rows, how many entries do we have? We have 10,000 entries, and for each of the column we have null value. It means we have data in all of the columns provided in this particular data frame. And here is the data type. This is objects. Whenever you're dealing with a string in data frame sees strings as object. So when you see object, it means that particular column contains string. So address is a string, loot is a string, AM or PM is a string, blah blah blah, string up to this point. But for credit card, we have int 664, that is an integer data type. Here's a string data type, an integer data type is string, and here we have a float data type, that's the purchase price. So in all, we have 10,000 entries and we have 14 columns. So with .info with your empty parentheses, it gives you the information about the data you're working with, and that is very, very important, and it comes handy when you try to do some analysis with your data. If you want to run some statistic or want to calculate one or two things, you need to know the kind of data that is stored in a particular column before you proceed with your analysis and the rest. Are there questions before I move on? Any question? Okay, in the absence of question, let's continue. The next task here is to answer the question, what is the average purchase price? What is the average purchase price? So here's the expected results, 50.347 blah blah blah. Now to answer that question, I don't want to override this result. I will click above and press B again. So what I'm going to do now is to view display the table, or the column rather, containing purchase price. That is the column called purchase price. So I'm going to copy this title, purchase price, and display that column. How do I display the column? I'll call the data frame, which is ecom. Don't forget, ecom is a variable name for my data frame. Then with a square bracket, inside the square bracket, I'm going to enter the title of the column within a quotation mark, either single quote or double quote. So ecom of purchase price is this, right? So these are the different prices we have under the purchase price, right? But our interest is to calculate the average of the purchase price. So I'm going to use the Pandas Mean to do that. All I need to do is just to type .mean and the empty bracket, and that will return the mean of the purchase price for us. Do you understand? So first of all, I displayed the data stored in that column titled purchase price by typing the name of the data, or the name of the table, which is ecom. Then within square brackets, I entered the column title, purchase price, and called on the method .mean to calculate the mean of those values stored in the column titled purchase price. All right. So the next task we want to do is the next question is, what were the highest and lowest prices, purchase prices? What were the highest and lowest purchase prices? Okay, to answer that question, we are still working with this column titled purchase price. So what I want to display now is the maximum value, and that maximum value is supposed to be 99.99 approximately. So all I'm going to do is to call on that particular the data frame again, ecom, then call the column name purchase price, and what I want is the maximum value. All right, and as you can see, the maximum value is it here? Okay, I'm not sure of the maximum value for yet. So all I need to do is to press .max. That is a method, a data frame method called max. So with .max to print out the maximum value are stored in that particular column, which is labeled purchase price. So with that, you get the maximum value. All right. Okay, that question is answered. The highest price is 99.99, approximately to 2 decimal places. Then let's get the lowest price. Lowest price. The same way I called the maximum price is what I'm going to do to call the lowest price. But this time around, I'll have to use the mean method instead of max. So I'll change this max to mean with the mean method to print out the minimum or the lowest purchase price. All right, so far so good. We've talked about how to use the mean, the maximum, the mean, and the minimum methods of the Pandas data frame. We've seen how to use the info method. We've seen how to call in data and how to print the top or the head, the first 5 entry in data in the data frame. Okay, are there questions before I move on?
Okay, Nnamdi, please, I observed that in your codes, we are obviously using the Pandas library for this work, right? But
Sure.
But I observed that in your codes you do not refer to you do not call up the Pandas library. You just go ahead and run it. Or have you made a blanket call preceding this?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Prince. If you remember in the last session we had with you, you were calling pd.mean after calling the variable name. Now, since I have declared this variable name, since this variable, which is ecom, is a Pandas how do I put it now? Is a Panda object. Let me just call it that way, if I'm right. It's a Pandas object. It means it has inherited every attributes and methods that Pandas has.
Okay.
All right. So because ecom is equal to pd.read, so it will inherit all the method and attributes that comes with Pandas. So I don't need to call pd.mean again, pd, because it's already a pd kind of object. So let's see the type of object. Let's look at type. Let me see if I can do that here. Let's say type of ecom. As you can see, ecom is a pandas.core.frame.dataframe. So this is a Pandas data frame object. It has inherited all the attributes and methods that comes with Pandas. So I don't need to call pd.mean again, or pd.max, or pd. All I need to do is call the variable ecom.mean, because that is already a pd object or a Pandas object. I'll just call ecom.mean, ecom.max, ecom.std, which stands for standard deviation, and you can use as many methods as are there or as possible for you to get your problem solved.
Okay.
Did I answer your question, please?
Yes, please, Nnamdi, you did. So if you want to revert it back to a regular Python object, can you do that? Is there a string of command you can use to disassociate that data from Pandas? So if you want to do something on Python regularly, you can go ahead and do that.
Pandas is also a part of Python now. So when you say you want to change it, convert it to use on Python, what do you mean? Is it like change it to a list or something?
Okay, look at what I mean.
Or
like
change it to a dictionary?
Like right now, everything that we're doing, we're referencing the Python library. The Pandas library. Let's say if I want to do something using a different library, say Numpy, for instance. How can I do that, since it's already a Pandas document, if I can use that expression? How can I disassociate it from that so that I can assign it to maybe the Numpy library and work on it with Numpy?
Okay, in that case, what you will need to do is to Numpy don't have a kind of data structure that you can use to capture a data that you have, like your CSV file, for instance. Like I said earlier, let me open that file again. Now this is the Ecommerce file, which is a CSV file. Okay. Right? Yeah. Now I don't think Numpy has any kind of function that will capture this CSV file and transform it into, let's say, a JSON file or a JSON data structure or a list data structure. I don't think Numpy has that.
Okay.
The only thing you can do with NumPy is to use NumPy to create an array. Then with the NumPy array, you can translate it or transform it to a data frame using Pandas. But since this is a kind of CSV file, the only way that I don't know if there's a way to do it with NumPy, but I'm not sure. I've never come across such method. The only way I know you can read in any data outside Pandas, if you're not creating it in Pandas, sorry, if you're not creating it in Python rather, is to use Pandas. So Pandas is like a data structure, a kind of data structure method module or library. It helps you structure your data. Let me put it that way. That's the main function of Pandas. But the comma separated value kind of file is not a structured data. So if you try to work with it using NumPy, I'm not sure how it will look out. I don't know how it will work out, except you create a NumPy structure or data from the beginning before you can start thinking of working with NumPy or using NumPy to do those. But you can also use some of the NumPy function of these Pandas. I think it will also work, but I've not tried it out before. But since Pandas has the mean, the others method, why do I have to use NumPy again? Yeah. That's the thing. But anywhere you have to use NumPy, you can go ahead and use NumPy. And again, let me say this before I forget. There's still going to be some time or some instance where you have to use NumPy. Okay, I think let me give you an example here. Let me import NumPy. Import NumPy as NP. Right? So I've imported NumPy. Now this particular credit, let's just go ahead and work with credit card, right? This particular credit card, if I want to say, let me use CC security code. I want to square or take the square root of each of these values stored under CC security code, the square root of each of these values, okay, and store the square roots in a new column called square root of CC security code. In that case, I think I will have to use I can use the NP square root function. I can also do that directly without using NP square root. Can I think of a particular function in NumPy that I can do directly? Let's say the mean, for instance. If I want to just take, the mean itself will not work. I'm thinking of what I can do to each of the value in this column that you have to use using NumPy. Okay, I think there is one particular task we'll do that I'm going to do something of that nature. But in summary, I don't need the NumPy since what I'm looking for from NumPy, Panda has all those things. So I don't need to start calling the NumPy function again, except I want to work on each of the values stored in one particular column. Then I can use one of the inbuilt functions from NumPy to do that, to achieve that. And I'm not going to achieve that just using only NumPy. I have to use that using another method or another function called apply. I'll show you how to use apply with a NumPy method to modify data stored in a given data frame. So did I clarify what your question, or I have caused more confusion?
No, Nandi, you did. You've really clarified. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. You're welcome. So, are we all on the same page, guys? It seems to only Prince that is on this call.
We are here.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm getting the count of everything, so I'm okay.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Let's move on. So we've done the max, the mean, the minimum, the mean. Let's continue. Now the next question here is, how many people have English as their language of choice on the website? Now to answer this question, I have to look at my data again. So I'm creating a new cell by clicking on this particular cell containing the question, which contains the question, and I'm going to press B on my keyboard. That will create a new cell for me. So let me just see the data again, or data info. You are going to be looking at the info once again and again. Okay, there is a particular column called language, right? So let's see that column called language. Let's see the data stored in that particular column. I'll see that by clicking on the square bracket your quotation mark and type language, right? Okay, so these are the language. Okay, that is the reason why they type this EN. That means this EN stands for English. So how many people have English as their language of choice? And these are all the ENs, right? Oh, sorry, these are the languages. EL, FR, maybe FR stands for French, blah blah, DE, ES, and so on and so forth. But we're not seeing any EN here. It means there are some ENs in, in between the data. We're saying the top 5 and the last 5. Okay, so in between the top and the last 5, there will be some EN. So how do I call out those EN? How do I know how many of them have English as their language? So I'm going to ask, I will tell Pandas, all right, please display true if e-commerce of language is EN. I'm going to filter right now. So I'm saying I've displayed all the languages, right? These are the abbreviations or the different notations for the languages. So I'm saying e-commerce of language equals EN. I want it to just show me either true or false for any language that is English, which is represented with EN. Okay, so it's showing false, 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 of course, because we didn't see, there was no EN in the first 5 and the last 5. So those ENs will be in between. Now, what I'm going to tell Python to do for me right now is to display the data, everything on the data frame, every information in data frame of those particular people who have English as their language. All right, and the way to do that is to enter this particular function, this particular what do I call it now? Comparison equation. This is like comparison rather. I'm comparing now. I'm saying is ecom of English EN. I'm comparing. So I'm saying false, false, false for all this, for the first 5 and the last 5. I'm going to enter this inside the data frame itself. And what is the data frame? The data frame is titled ecom. Okay, inside the square bracket, and run this. So what we are seeing right now is the information of each of the individual entered into this data frame that have English as their language. Can you see that? So how many of them? They are 10,098 of the entries that have English as their language of choice. But it says how many? How many? So how many? Let's now count. We can now count this using the count method. How many? So that is it. So that means there are 10,098. Or even from that, this thing, we can see it. So as you can see, this is the expected output. But of course, we don't need all of these columns to show the address, the loot, the AM or PM. I can still count all of these. In fact, I can just show one column and count by that column, any of the columns, since they all have the same number. So I can just decide to show just for email, so that you just show me just a figure by typing this, and that is it. So it tells me that there are 1,098 rather, 1,098 people who have English as their language of choice on the website. Are there questions? Do we understand this? Do you understand what I've done here?
Yes, Namdi.
Okay.
So actually, I didn't see any EN while we were working. So
Okay, but are you seeing it now?
I'm not seeing it clearly.
Okay.
I think, Chooks, are you connected with a mobile device or a system?
It's my system.
Okay. I don't know what the problem is, but it's very clear on my system, and I happen to be recording it, so the recording will be clear. I think I want to assume
Also
that
clear
the
on my
recording will be clear.
mobile though.
Yes, probably.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. It's easier now. It's my network. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. All right. So, all right. Let's continue. Now that is that. The next question is, how many people have the job title lawyer or lawyer? How many people have the job title lawyer? let's see that again. So we are going to again print, display the data, the column containing job title. Let's check how job title is written on our data. I'm going to call on info again. So it's written as, where is it again? Okay, jobs. This is not just job. Let's check out what this column job contains. Info of job. And you have to watch out, check out the way it is spelled. All right, so you must check the case, because this is case sensitive. If you use small j to return error, let's try that out. And says that is an error. It says there is no this key error. There is no key titled or which is labeled as job because I'm using small j. So you must be careful about that. Use the same case that you are seeing in the column title. Now these are the jobs, right? But the question says how many people have job title lawyer. All right, we are going to filter it out using the same method I used right here. So I'm going to ask this guy to Python to print out a yes or a no if this particular column contains the job title called lawyer. We're going to see false, false, false all through because the first 5 are not lawyers and the last 5 are also not lawyers. So maybe those lawyers are in between. Then I will use this particular instruction to filter out all information, of the persons whose job title is lawyer. How do I filter out? Again, I'll put this particular instruction in a square bracket, and outside the square bracket, I'll call on the title of the data frame, which is ecom, and run that. And when you do that, you can see it as display the table that contains all the persons who are lawyers. Let's even check it out to see how true it is. Let's go to the title, job. You can see job, you can see lawyer, 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 lawyer. So we've been able to filter out the people whose job title is lawyer. And the instruction here is to count, right? How many? We can go ahead again and count, or we can see count. Let's just count and go ahead and count that number. So it gives us 30, 30, 30, 30 all through. Of course, we don't need all of these 30s. If you just want to see just a single 30, you can count by any of this column title, like I did in this other case. I counted by email. I can decide to count by job also. Let's count by job also, so that we will display only one value, only one 30 value. So I'm counting by job, and that is it. So it means there are 30 people who have job title of lawyer. Okay. Next task, it says how many people made the purchase during the AM rather, and how many people made the purchase during PM. Okay, we'd like to check out the table again to see if we have something called AM and PM in the column. I think we have the column title here. All right, yeah, here we have a column title called AM or PM. Let's display that column containing AM or PM. I'll display using the title of the data frame in a quote AM exactly the way it's written in capital letter, or PM. Okay, so you can see AM, PM, AM or PM. So how many are they? All right, we have 10,000 of them. But the instruction is how many people made the purchase during AM and how many people made the purchase during PM. Okay, let's first count the number of AM and the number of PM. Since there are all AM and PMs contained in this column, so the function we can use to do that is value count. Value count. Instead of using count, if you use count, you just count to give us the total number of entry that contains either AM or PM. My count is not spelled correctly. Either AM or PM. And you see, of course, there is going to be either an AM or a PM. So it means we have 10,000 of such entry. But I want Python to instead of counting either AM or PM, it should count the unique values, or to count how many AMs are there and how many PMs are there. So instead of using count, I'm going to use .value underscore counts with an S, and that gives us the value, the number. So it means we have 5,068 PMs, 4,932 AMs. So whenever you want to count unique values in a particular column, all you need to do is to count. You should use a value count, and there is another function called n unique rather. That is number unique. We see how I think there is a particular task where we are going to use that to count n unique. Where we are going to use the n unique method to count some unique values stored in a column. Okay, so that is that about value counts. All right, the next task is, what are the 5 most common job titles? What are the 5 most common job titles? To answer that question, we have to again display the column containing the job titles. These are the job titles, right? So the 5 most common. Let's do our value count again, because there are different job titles. Let's try out value count to see value underscore count. Okay, we have these values. That means for interior and special design, 31 of them, lawyer, 30 of them. So from here, of course, you can see the 5 most common, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to print these 5 most common, all we need to do is to use .head, and that is it. If you like, you can put in the figure 5 in it to display it. If you like, you just leave it as .head. Either you just type .head and run that cell, displays the 5 most common, or you put in figure 5 inside the curve bracket, you see obtain the same output. So that is how to count unique values in a column and return the highest or the least. So if our interest, for instance, if our interest is to get the 5 lists job title, what we do here, instead of typing .head, we type .tail. .tail will give us the 5 lists job here: prison officers, editor film / video editor, query, and so on and so forth. So the interest is to get the 5 most common. Okay, the next task, it says someone made a purchase that came from Lutz, which is 90 WT. What was the purchase price for this transaction? What was the purchase price for this transaction? Okay, let's see how to go about this particular task. So first of all, we have to check out the column containing Lutz. Let's see how the kind of data stored in there. And to check it out, I'll call the title again with the Lutz as my okay, that's what's meant to be a square bracket. All right, so that is it. So this is the column containing Lutz. We have 46 in 28 RN 94 VE, blah 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 blah. But the question is, someone made a purchase that come in from this particular location, 90 WT. All right, so I would like to check out for that location alone. So I'll tell Python to display a true or a false if this particular purchase is coming from this location. And how to do that is to compare each of these values with this particular text in the quotes, copy it together with the quotes, and it's displaying false or true. So there's a true inside. For us to see that value or to see that data that has the true, the particular entry that has a true value under the Lutz column, I'm going to enclose this again in a square bracket around the data frame econ. So that is it. So this is the particular data that has that the purchase that came in from that particular location. You can see Lutz 90 WT, and the question is, what was the purchase price? So here is the purchase price, $71.1. Now, how do we print out that value alone? It means I will have to refer to this column, purchase price. So let's display the column purchase price of this particular filtered data. Copy the title, purchase price, and paste it there. And with that, we have the value printed out. So the name is purchase price. Is that a question? Other questions?
Nandi. Hello, Nandi.
I can hear you.
Yeah, please, I just want to ask a question. Can we use the lock and the iLock, or I think lock is the right one. Can we use lock in this case?
Okay.
That's the LOC, like determine the index, and probably will that work?
Let's see. Let's see if that will work. So, now for you to use the lock, you must know. Okay, let me try that out first. Okay, there's an error here. It's saying that purchase price. Now you must know the index number of purchase price, and in that case, what you're expected to put here is a figure, right? An integer 4. Let me see what it's showing here right now. It's saying this is key error. Okay, let me try iLock instead of lock. iLock, the location of that guy, and it's still giving us a single positioner indexer is out of bounds. Okay, I'm not sure of what I'm doing wrong here, but I know if you want to use the iLock, you are going to do that using the position, the index of that column. You go back to the column titles from that your table and count what's the index. This is index address. If this is the first, I think this is the first column. This should be index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, index 5, index 6, index 7, index 8, index 9, 10, 11, and 12. So this is supposed to be 12 if you're using the iLock. But I believe there's a different way to write in your function if you want to use the iLock. But right now, what I'm doing is to call, because I have displayed this particular filter. I've used this guy to filter out the data. Ecom of loads, which is this is like a filtering feature which I have used to filter the data to get this particular entry, right? Then the only thing I need to get out of this filtered table is this value. So since I know the title of the value, why am I going for the location or the index of that column, which is supposed to be the 12th index? So all I need to do is just to call that title. Also in a square bracket, I'm asking Python to please print out this title for me, purchase price. So for the iLock, there are still cases or instances where you have to use those iLock, but I will have to look it up to remember.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, bro. Okay, so the next task says, what is the email of the person with the following credits number? This is the credit number. Again, we have to filter the data again. But this time around, let's just get the email column. So here's the email column. What is the email of the person with this credit number? Okay, no, we'll have to get the credit number rather, instead of their credit card rather. Filter by display the column containing the credit card. Okay, credit card. And the only data I want to view right here is the data containing this number. I'll copy that and ask Python to return a true or false if that's all these values stored in the column titled credit card is equal to this. It will return a true or false. But I'll use this true or false value to filter the data again. Ecom, and it displays it has filtered the table with the entry containing that particular credit card number, of which I'm interested in the email. So I'm calling the email title to display the email of that particular individual, which is this. All right, so that is that about that. As you can see that this follows one particular pattern, filtering out one particular pattern using this blah blah blah. Of course, I think there are cases where you have to filter out also using some of these methods in the predicts. And like I said, this is not only the method you can use to filter out your data or a particular entry in Python. I said that at the beginning. Just like I think that must be Mutala said, you can also use your iLog. But right now, I don't want to start any try and error because I don't want to waste too much time. All I need to do, I have to check it out again to see how I can use iLog to get out the data. But I know it's possible to do that. So there are different ways to get it done. What you just need to do is to understand what you want to do part time and know how to do it. Okay, we are almost at the end. How many people have American Express as their credit card provider and made a purchase about $95? Okay, so there are two conditions we want to test in this case. We want to test how many people have American Express as their credit card provider. First of all, let's check the data frame again, the table, to know if there is any column called containing the credit card provider. Let's check that again. Info. Okay, we have CC provider. I believe this must be for credit card provider. So let me copy that and display the column containing credit card provider. Okay, because of this space, I'm getting that error, so I have to close up that space and run that again. So here's the column containing credit card provider. So how many people have American Express? Now to answer that question, what I will ask Pandas to do for me is to display a true if any of these credit card provider is equal to American Express. Display false if it's not equal to American Express. And of course, we've done that again and again. I'm going to do that again by copying this American Express and put it, close it. I did copy. Just copy that American Express and enclose it within parent quotes like this. So it's showing false. Okay, there's a true, one true here. I believe there must be other truths in between. So that means this particular entry has American Express as his own credit card provider. Alright, so that is one. Of course, with this we can use to filter the table again by putting this in a square bracket and we can call the table title ecom. So with this we have the list of entries or individuals who have American Express as their credit provider. You can see from this table, from this column, CC provider, American Express, all through, and there are about 849 of those entries. Okay, but there are two conditions here. The other condition is made purchase above $95. Oh, all right, let's do that in a new cell first before we combine both. Both conditions. So ecom of which a column contains about information about purchase. I think it's purchase price, right? Purchase price. So I want to display the column title purchase price. Okay. So purchase price. So here's the purchase price. My interest is to get the purchase price above $95. So which of the purchase price is greater than $95? Alright, so we have a true and false, true, false, false. So let's filter the table using this particular command or that particular condition. Okay, so these are the people who made purchase above $95. Let's go to the purchase price and check out and see how true the filtering is. Purchase price 95.63, which is true. So now how do we combine these two conditions? So this is what I'm going to do to combine both the two conditions. Let me copy this, or let me cut this and delete this cell. And delete this cell because I don't need this. By pressing D twice on my keyboard, then I'm going to paste it in here. What I'm pasting is just this condition in the bracket. Remember, this is what I used to filter the table. So I'll cut this out, cut out this condition, delete this, and put it inside this single command. paste. But because there are two conditions in one, I'm using these two conditions to filter the table. I will enclose this in a square, in a curved bracket, enclose the second condition also in a curved bracket, and combine both with the and the upper, is it called upper sign or so? Then run my command. So with this, I've been able to combine two conditions to filter the table. So right now we have the filtered table containing the number of persons who have American Express as their credit card provider and made a purchase above $95. But our interest is to count, right? So I'm going to put a .count at the end of this function or command to give me the expected result 39. So there are 39 entries. But I don't like counting all the columns. So I just love counting just one column. So I can just go ahead and count by any of the column displayed since they all have the same value. Let me just count by job or something. Anyone, they have the same value. So, and that gives you 39. So to answer that question, there are 39 people who have American Express as their credit card provider, made a purchase about $95, above $95. Sorry. Okay. Any question on this? I hope this is not confusing. I hope it's straightforward and clear enough.
Okay. Nandi, thanks a lot so far. The time is 8:12, so we are 12 minutes over time. I want to ask guys, do we extend the time, please? Because I think it's very important stuff he's talking about.
Yes, let's extend the time.
Okay. So we're giving 15 minutes extra. Is that okay?
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. I have two more things to talk about here. Just two more functions. I think this one is very important because you will see this. You will see it in the predicts. You see a lot of this last one in the predicts. So it's very important. Now this. The second to the last question says, of course, it's tagging is as hard. How many people have credit card that expires in 2025? All right, let's look at this data. The column. Let's look at the data stored in that column. The column titled data, date rather. I think there is a column titled date. Ecom of dates. Oh, is it dates? Okay, let's check it out. What do we have? Ecom of okay, I think, what's the question again? Expiry date. So it's meant to be expiry date. CC expiring date. Let me copy that and paste it in here. Okay, this is it. All right, so before the date format is not given as in day, month and year. It's only given as in month and year. You can see 0220. This 20 represents 2020. 11/18, that's 11th month of 2018. The August of 2019, and so on and so forth. And if you check it out again, let's see the type of data. This is the data type is object, which means these guys are strings. They are strings, and they are not really date time objects. Okay, they are strings and not date time objects. There is something called date time object, and we are going to use that. There is a particular task that you would do in the predict that you have to use the date time object. Okay, but in this particular situation, it's either you use the date time object to convert each of these guys here to date time. Okay, let's try something out. Let me try it out to see how it works. Dot apply. I'm going to use the apply function. Okay, and the apply function is used to perform a particular task on every entry or every data point under a given column. So like, let's say I want to do something to this guy, I want to do that same action on this, I want to take that same action on number 3, entry 4, entry 5, entry up to the last entry, the same action. So apply will help me take that action out on all of those entries. So apply, and I'm using the lambda function here, dot apply lambda of x. So this x is each of this particular variable x. You can use any variable. You can say apply lambda y, apply z. You can use your name. I can use apply lambda Austin if I like. So I'm saying Austin is each of these strings stored under the column CC expiry date. So now, what do I want to do to each of these guys? That is the next question. What do I want to do to each of these? Don't forget this guy, they are all strings, right? They are all strings. So let's see if this string let's see the method that comes with this string function. So I've called apply lambda x, right? You end this, you start with a column, then x dot. You press your tab. I heard the sound. Is that a warning sign for me?
No, Namdi, please go ahead. Go ahead. You still have about 10 minutes. I guess.
It's not for you.
Okay. So let me try out. Let's see if this works. It's not showing me the list of methods. I hope this works. To date time. To date time. I have the feelings that I will have error now. I said it.
You misspelled
string,
date, please.
okay,
check the spelling of date.
String object has. Okay. Date. Thank you. I hope doesn't. I know string because string object has no attributes to date time. So there's something there's something I'm meant to do first to convert those strings. You see, it's saying string because it's saying those guys, those data stored in this particular column are string. And string object has no attribute or method called date to date time. So let me see if we can use this time around. If we can use our NP is to date time and NP. Let me quickly check it out. Is it NP to date time? It's a pandas method.
Okay.
It's with pandas. All right. Okay. Let me do one more thing now. If that's not working, the pandas method. I doubt if this will work. Okay. Oh well. There is a little transformation I was supposed to do on those data or those string objects to convert it to date time. But I see another way I can play around this. I can solve this without actually converting each of those strings to date time object, so that it changes to 2025. Python Pandas has the ability to convert each of these figures it sees here to a particular year. But I can't figure out that right now. So let me just play around it. Let me think of other methods to solve this. So what I'm going to do is each of these guys, since they are strings, right? I'm going to iterate through each of these guys and print out the last two objects or the last two numbers right here, and check if it is equal to 2025. And also to do that, I still need to use the apply method. Yes.
Sorry. What if you convert the data type to maybe an integer or some other kind of data? Do you think that would solve this? Because I think the error is...
Okay, let's try that out. Let's try that out. Yeah, this is how to do it. We say apply lambda x, then int of x, and we see having error. Okay, it's 10.
Namdi.
Yes.
So because of the is it forward or backward slash in between the numbers?
Yeah, true.
Yes, can we remove the backward slash?
Yes, you can remove it.
So
we can remove it.
Let's try. Can we try reassigning that the series? That is the CCX.
Yes.
So we'll do become CC expiry date equals to pandas to PD dots to date time. Then I don't know if you.
So
this series we assign it back to this column or series. So but we will use the pandas to date time and see if it will work.
Okay.
I don't know if you get the idea.
No, please come again.
Okay, so let's take out up to the apply.
Okay.
No,
Right.
keep going.
Okay.
No, keep going. Keep going. Yeah, that's it. So equals to now. No, just one. Like
Okay, that means I should create a new column, right?
yeah. So we are going to reassign. So we'll do the panda. So PD. No.
I don't want to overwrite this particular column.
No, so we are assigning it back. So because we want to
Okay.
change back, we want to convert it to daytime, right?
All right. PD dot this guy, right?
Yeah, this guy to daytime. No, PD to daytime.
Okay, to this time.
To daytime, yeah. Underscore daytime.
Of this.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like. Let's see if it will work.
It's still giving us error. Out of bounds. Okay, that means we are meant to use let's say a dash instead of that backward slash. Is that backward slash or forward slash? So I think that slash is the one that is giving us the problem right now. Okay.
I was thinking we could remove the slash.
Yes, we can actually remove the slash. So let's do dot apply and lambda x dot strip x dot strip if. Let's try this. Okay, so what happened? Why is this there? I want to strip that. Oh, okay, let me just split. Let me split instead of stripping. Let me split. Okay, this is it, but this has changed this to a list instead of what we want to see. It has changed it to a list. Okay, yes, this problem can be solved. I believe it can be solved by that to this time, but I can't think of a way to do that right now. To cost me to sit down and look at it carefully and think about it. But there's a method that comes to my mind right now that will help us answer this question easily without wasting too much time. And that method is to go to each of those guys without splitting it. Let me go back and unsplit them. So of course we have it as we have data like this. I'm going to use the apply method and the lambda function, right? Lambda function, then pick each of those guys, and since each of those entry they are what do you call it now, string, our iterate go inside it and return just the from the index 3 we have 0 1 2 3. This is the third index, right? From index 3 to the end. Let's see this. Okay, so I've been able to extract the last 2 digits, 20, 18, 19, 24, 25, and the rest. But my interest is to count how many have credit card that expires in 2015. So which just display the ones that are 2015. Don't forget, this is still objects. They are still strings, so not number. If I use 20, just 25, it will give me error. Okay, it's working fine. So it means it has been able to convert that guy to. No, this 25 is actually figures. Because let's try to use this what we have now to filter the table. Let's see what will happen. Let's try to use it to filter the table to see if we get any reasonable data. Ecom. You can see that we're having nothing. It's an empty table. That's because those values are still string. So I have to type this as a string. Let's see what we have. Okay, you can see that it has produced results. We have the value, the data that will expire in 2005. Where is the? Okay, here's the expiry date. You can see 10/25, 0/25, blah blah 25/25. Then we can go ahead and count. So the question says how many, right? How many? You can now count this. Let's count. Am I leaving out my T? And that gave the answer 1033. So you can count by any column title. Oh, I didn't close this. So that is that about that. So the last but not the least, we want to, what are the top 5?
Sorry, Nandi.
Yes.
That means this one you just did now. We can solve that problem without using this lambda. You can see that your normal the normal syntax you use, right?
This one? No. You can't. You have to use this lambda because
we have to use
you have to use lambda. Yes, because you want to go to each of those value under the column called CC expiry date. Whenever you want to go to each value under a column, you must use the lambda function. But lambda is what is picking each of these values and assigning and doing this. Using this to each of them. This X represents each of the value. So this is what is done on each of these values.
Okay, I was thinking maybe we'll just use that equal to string 25.
No.
Normal syntax. It won't work.
It won't work. You have to use the lambda function since you are applying to a column, a series in a data frame.
See what you help us do. Just this IPYMB file. Just share it for us for this thing for this pod 7.
Okay,
Let me get you very well. Thank you.
I'll do that. All right. So the last but not the least, what are the top 5 most popular email providers? Quickly, let's go and check out the emails column. Ecom of emails. Email, rather. So that is it. Now we want to get the provider. Our interest is the provider or the host. Okay, so it means we have to split. We'll split each of this email here. Each of the emails stored under this particular series or column titled email, right? I'm going to split each of them by this @ symbol. And how to do that? Don't forget, whenever you're doing each of a data point in a series or a column, you use the apply lambda function. Apply lambda x. I'm going to pick each of, so this x now represents each of the emails stored in this column. I'm picking each of the x and splitting it by the @ and let's see what happens. So you can see that we've been able to split each of those guys with the @ it separates the email name and the domain, or the host rather, the email and the host. So with this we can actually get out, and that will return a list, right? List of the email and the host or the provider. So but our interest is to pick the second element in each of those lists, and the second elements in each of the lists, they are the domain, and those are the elements in the index 1 of each of the lists inside this column. Again, I have to use my apply again, but apply lambda. This time around, the lambdas I'm picking are lists. Don't forget, this is a list. This is a list. So this X now represents the list. So what do I want to do with each of the lists? I want to pick the second element in each of the lists, and that second element is in index 1. I'll run this, and I gave the domain. So well, our interest is to do what? The top 5, right? So I'm going to count. Let's use the value count to see if that works. Value counts.
Okay.
That works. So the top 5 just head, and that is the answer, which is the expected answer. So the top 5 are hotmail.com, yahoo.com, gmail.com, smith.com, williams.com, and so on and so forth. Okay, with this, thank you guys for being part of this session. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your contribution. Any question?
Thank you very, very much.
Nine, thank you so much. I love this.
Thanks a lot. Please remember to share it like Chief suggested. It will be very nice.
Alright, I will do that.
Okay, Nandi, thank you very, very much. I cannot begin to express how grateful, because it is just like if you've done yours, you've experienced it, you have taken the bruises that comes with doing it first, and you have been so benevolent to share, to allow us to be able to pick your brain and be able to do ours. It's really a sacrifice, and we deeply appreciate it. Guys, please, like I always say, the only way we can express our gratitude is by rating. So please, let's massively rate Nandi tonight if we can. Just the rate button is within Athena. Just look for it and rate him. because it's very, very clear, very explicit the way he has explained it. I don't think we'll have any issues understanding it. So, and also Namdi, please try and share the notebook like everyone is suggesting. It will help us to be able to follow along and do the needful. So if there are any, okay, one more thing I wanted to say, please guys, please, I can't stress this enough. For us to be able to continue these sessions, we need inclusion. It does not have to be extremely super. In case some of you don't know, Nandi has a very, very strong teaching background. So he's someone who has, this is not the first time he's doing this, so that's why he's quite eloquent in it. But that does not mean that we all do not have something to share. Please, we need to step up and begin to take charge, have the opportunity, seize the opportunity to come to the center and share whatever it is we know. I was thinking of doing something like a scheme, and let me run it by you guys to see that we are all on the same page. I wanted to start pairing us, maybe pair somebody with Namdi. Namdi will do, you guys can just come together and decide what you want to present. Namdi can do 30 minutes while the person does 30 minutes to give us that opportunity to be able to come into this space and do take the center stage. Why I'm saying that is that remember that Nnamdi is also a student like all of us. His time is also constrained. He wouldn't have every time to prepare sessions every day or very frequently, So if we do not share that burden, if it is not diffused, the few persons who facilitate will eventually become weary, and I don't want that to happen. So I want to suggest that, please, what is your input, guys? Do we do that? Do we begin to pair some of us so that we can work in twos, pending when maybe after 1-2 presentation as a pair, you can now come to the space and present on your own. Anything. There's so much content in this series or this our course. So there's always something to present. If you take a few hours to go through sources online, you can extract something that is worth sharing. So that's my suggestion. Please, let's put it to a quick vote. Do we do that? I would like to hear your responses now so that I can schedule that if we agree as a policy. So guys, what do you all think?
Yeah, Okon, I think it's a good idea. The most important thing is everybody trying to make time to see that we contribute in our own little way. That's the main thing. Of course, the other thing is until we really try to brace up and come out and talk up like this, some of us who are shy public speakers will not be able to get out of that inconvenient situation. So yeah, it's a good idea pairing it, and then we can always learn from the experts, those who have experience doing it, and then that way we can easily build ourselves. So yeah, for me it's a very good idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Umar. So subsequently, we would be doing that, please. So don't be surprised if I reach out to you and tell you, please, you'll be presenting today with such and such a person. You guys will just take out a little time, put your heads together, and come up with something to present. Then, secondly, what we have gotten from Nandi is a whole lot. So I want to propose that we skip the next meeting, which is supposed to be the day after tomorrow, to take the time to digest what we have learned, attempt the predict, go as far as we can in it, and if we have specific questions, as in questions that are specific to our predict, given the information we have now, we can reschedule another meeting after we have skipped this next meeting, which is supposed to be the day after tomorrow. So what do you guys think about that? It's just my thoughts, so we can have time to utilize the information that we have now.
Awesome.
Okay, it's all right, guys. So that being said, thank you all for being a part. Okay, it's all right, guys. That being said, thank you all for being a part of this session. We really appreciate that you take out time to be a part of what we're doing. and I believe that it is going to be helpful to every single one of us who are part of this. The recording, as well as Mr. Nnamdi's Pandas notes, will be shared as quickly as we can. So if there is nothing else, I think we have come to the end of this session. Like I said, please don't forget to rate Mr. Nnamdi. That's the only way we can show our appreciation. So thank you all once again, and have a great night.
Okay, can we rate someone twice?
Yes.
Can we rate someone twice?
I think that is possible, but we would have to find out. Of course, we don't know how Athena works in totality, but I think it's possible, because if you rate someone, is tabulated daily. You understand? You can rate someone as being helpful for a particular day and wait for another day. I stand to be corrected though, but I think that is how it works. But it doesn't hurt to try it out. Let's see if that would work out. Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Okay. Good night, guys. I'm logging off right now.
All right. Good night.